Hi children, I'm Victoria Carlton and I'm going to read you one of the Easter stories from the Jesus Storybook Bible. This one is called The Servant King and it's a very, very important story because it's all about the Last Supper. It was Passover. It was the time when God's people remembered how God had rescued them from being slaves in Egypt. Every year they killed a lamb and they ate it at Passover. The lamb died instead of us, they would say. But this Passover, God was getting ready for an even greater rescue. Jesus and his friends were having the Passover meal together in an upstairs room, probably somewhere like this. But Jesus' friends were arguing. What about? Well, they were arguing about stinky feet. Yes, you heard me. That's right, stinky feet. Now, the thing about feet back then was that people didn't wear shoes. They only wore sandals, which might not sound unusual, except the streets in those days were dirty. And I don't mean just dusty dirty, I mean really stinky dirty. With all those cows and horses everywhere, you can imagine the stuff on the street that ended up on their feet. So anyway, someone had to wash away the dirt. But it was a dreadful job. Who on earth would ever dream of volunteering to do it? Would you want to wash somebody's stinky feet? I don't think I would. Only the lowliest servant. I'm not the servant, Peter said. Nor am I, said Matthew. Quietly, Jesus got up from the table and took off his robe, picked up a basin of water, knelt down and started to wash his friend's feet. You can't, Peter said. He didn't understand about Jesus being the servant king. If you don't let me wash away the dirt, Peter, Jesus said, you can't be close to me. Jesus knew that what people needed most was to be clean on the inside. All the dirt on their feet was nothing compared to the sin inside their hearts. Then wash me, Lord, Peter said, tears filling his eyes, all of me. One by one, Jesus washed everyone's feet. I'm doing this because I love you, Jesus explained. Do this for each other. Now, one of Jesus' friends had made a bad plan. No one else knew what the bad, evil plan was, but Jesus knew, and so did Judas. Judas was going to help the leaders capture Jesus for 30 pieces of silver. Go on, Judas, Jesus said. And Judas got up from the meal, left the room, and he walked out into the night. So he wasn't a very good friend for Jesus, was he? Then Jesus picked up some bread and he broke it. He gave it to his friends. He picked up a cup of wine and he thanked God for it. He poured it out and he shared it. My body is like this bread. It will break, Jesus told them. This cup of wine is like my blood. It will pour out. But this is how God will rescue the whole world. My life will break and God's broken world will mend. My heart will tear apart and your hearts will heal. Just as the Passover lamb died, so now I will die instead of you. My blood will wash away all of your sins and you'll be clean on the inside in your hearts. So whenever you eat and drink, remember, Jesus said, I've rescued you. Jesus knew it was nearly time for him to leave the world and to go back to God. I won't be with you much longer, he said. You are going to be very sad, but God's helper will come, and then you'll be filled up with a forever happiness that won't ever leave you. So don't be afraid. You are my friends and I love you." Then they sang their favourite song and they walked up to their favourite place, an olive garden. Thank you for listening so well to this story. Some very deep, difficult things to think about in this story. And I don't really understand them all, but there's some very, very important parts to this story. I look forward to telling you the next part.